Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and I'm here today to talk about my PC. That's right, guys, I finally updated the case for my rig, and I felt like this was the perfect time to actually sit down, try and take some cool photography and film of my new PC, which, by the way, I am terrible at. I'm not claiming to be good, so enjoy the very poorly, extremely amateur footage recorded with an iPhone. At least I tried to get the lighting right. You gotta give me that at least. Anyways, we're really here to talk about the story behind my PC and also to talk about the new case that I recently transferred all my components to. So you're seeing a side-by-side right now of my brand new Phantek Enthoo Pro M acrylic case. So it has an entirely clear acrylic window on the one side. It is an incredible case, especially coming from someone who is like, you know, stepping out of the Stone Ages with my 8-year-old going on 9-year-old Alienware Aurora case. So, yes, you guys are probably like, Tony, you have an Alienware? You had an Alienware? Yes, I did. And technically, I still did somewhat. Not really, mostly just the case. So here's the story behind my Alienware computer. 8 years ago, roughly, I graduated from high school, and I decided I was going to go to school for game art design. I applied for a scholarship that I won, awesomely enough, or received, however you would say that, that pretty much gave me a pretty decent chunk of cash, let's just put it that way, to go ahead and use it for school. So I was like, you know what, I'd like to build a really good PC, I can use this for editing programs, and everything I'm ever going to need, I won't have to worry about it for like the next 6 years. So at that point in time, I didn't know much about building PCs, actually. It's 2008, I'm out of high school. I had played, you know, lots of PC games, but really consoles were my focus at that point. You know, Halo had come around on the original Xbox, and I ended up growing up with that and stepping away from the time that I spent with games like Quake, Soldier of Fortune, and Unreal Tournament growing up as a kid, which I mostly played at my uncle's house, who was into building PCs. I had friends, dads who were into building PCs, so I was always around that culture, but I never really had someone teach me about it, never learned about it. When we always had a PC in my house, it was just a typical Windows PC. It was nothing exceptionally powerful. So I went to Alienware, you know, with the scholarship money, and I built what was essentially a $3,200 PC at the time. It had a quad-core AMD Bulldozer FX CPU in it, I believe, if I remember correctly. Pretty gnarly, actually. 8 gigabytes of RAM, which at the time was a big deal, and 2 Radeon 5850s in Crossfire. It also had a Corsair 1000-watt gold power supply, which is actually the power supply you're seeing in that case on the right now. It's still running to this day. In fact, the only reason I couldn't put it in the new case was because it wouldn't fit. So Thursday night, the case shows up at my house before I go to work. I get out of work. My good buddy, other Tony, said, you know, was like, hey, can I come over and watch? You know, I want to see what it's like to put all this stuff in a new case. I was like, yeah, sure. You know, let's do this together. Now, I've helped other people with PCs in the past. I built a mini motherboard PC for my mom a while back, and like I've built PC stuff, but I've honestly never had the opportunity to fully disassemble my own PC apart from taking out bits and pieces component by component. Because of course the Alienware that you're seeing right there no longer has that AMD motherboard in it. Obviously it's an 8-year-old CPU on, I think it was a gigabyte motherboard at the time. All of that's been swapped out over time. The only thing original right now inside of that Alienware is the power supply. All the drives have been changed. Everything has been completely altered. The fans are different. Everything has been ripped out and replaced. But I never really had the opportunity to take a case and, you know, for myself anyways, and fill it with my own components. I was always helping other people. So I was really happy about this project, you know, to actually have a perfectly clean slate and put it in there. So that night, my buddy comes over. The first thing I do is like, well, let's, you know, I disconnected everything already. I've got like the GPU out. I got my Elgato capture card out. Let's take out the power supply and like, let's just check that out first. Never did it cross my mind that that power supply would be way too tall to fit in the bottom of the Phantek's case. And that was the case. Not even close. It's like 9 3/4 tall, that ridiculously old power supply. Also, it's non-modular. So it had about 1 million extra cables dangling out of it that I was never going to use, or at least that I didn't want hanging around until I needed them. And it was at that point, after a little bit of a mental breakdown, because I really wanted to get the rig together tonight, so I'd be good to work for Friday and Saturday, was like, okay, let's just put everything else in the case. You know, I'm not even worried about it right now. If I order from Amazon, I'll have to wait till Saturday. Let's check Best Buy. I looked at Best Buy. They had a Corsair 850M CX series. I was like, that's perfect. You know, I don't need a 1000-watt power supply anymore. 850 is more than enough right now for what I'm running. A single card an i7, I'll be okay. You know, there's no doubt about that. So I was like, I'll go get it in the morning. We'll be all set. They said they have 3 left. So we put the rest of the stuff in the you know, the PC. I'm like loving the cable management, and then early Friday morning, I head over to Best Buy. I ended up being able to price match. Actually, they had it for like $120 at Best Buy. It was actually it was 100 even on Amazon at that time. So I came home. I put everything in the case and was, you know, pretty excited about it. Like, oh, okay, it's all in the case. Like, let's get it all, you know, finish up the rest of the wiring. I bought a 240mm Corsair blue LED fan to go in the back of the case. And you guys ready? You ready to see it? You ready to see it all in its wonderful working glory? There it is. Looking pretty snazzy, right? Again, I apologize for the amateur photography, but that's all me. The Phantek's case is beautiful. Couple initial impressions. Number one, the top right side of the case sadly has been dented slightly. It's something I'll get over. However, I have emailed Phantek since then because there are 3 mounting points for SSD trays throughout the case. There's one on the bottom right corner in the front of the case and 2 on the back of the case. They only gave me 1 tray though, which I thought was a bit weird. You'd figure if there was 3 mounting points, they'd give you 3 trays to mount 3 SSDs in total if you'd like. There's also the 2 traditional hard drive bays. And they didn't. You know, I don't know if that's intentional. It doesn't come with 3 trays, but I emailed them anyways and was like, basically, I'm not sure, you know, is this supposed to come with 3 trays? I sent them a picture of the dent, and I was basically, in so many words, well, even if it doesn't come with 3 trays, you want to send me 2 additional trays, and we'll call it even on the giant dent in the top of my case. Not that it's actually that giant, and we'll see if I get back from them. I haven't heard back from them yet. It is the weekend, so hopefully they'll just be like, yeah, and they'll send me 2 more trays. Because I have a total of 2 SSDs right now, and I'm looking to purchase a 3rd. I would very much like to be able to actually, you know, put all my SSDs in those locations. I'd love to be able to wire up, like, you know, my Evo in the front of the case and have 2 more in the back, and then have my WD 1TB just hanging out in the drive bay. So that was the only issue. I mean, otherwise than that, I was completely sold on this case. I love the giant clear acrylic window. It is absolutely beautiful. Modern day cable management in PC cases is insanely good. Like I said, I stepped out of the Stone Ages with a really old, admittedly pretty poorly designed case. Alienware, that case was never, it looked clean when I first got it, but it's just such a dull case. You know, it's like bare metal inside. It was all about the exterior back then, right? Everybody's like, oh, let's make the exterior look really cool. You know, who gives a damn about the internals? It's kind of like having a car where you just do body work and then you leave everything else on the inside full of rust and grime, and you never, you know, polish your, you know, your valve covers. You never, like, you know, keep your turbo looking clean. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. You know, so I like the modern approach, which is like, look at all the internals, look at the beautiful, you know, cable management and stuff like that. I really appreciate that, and I love that that's the thing that we're going with for modern PCs. You know, my girlfriend came over last night and like saw the case. She was like, you know, she has no idea. When I told her I was getting a new case, she's like, what do you mean a new case? Most people don't understand that unless they're into PCs in some way. But she saw it, she was like, you know, like, oh, I love how you can see inside and see all this stuff. That's so cool. Like, you know, people get it even if they don't really get it, and that's really cool. You know, when I realized that there were so many companies making these perfectly, you know, open windows, Phantek's, of course, with their Evolve series as well, which has 2 clear windows, both tempered glass, are just stunning cases, man. And I have to say that the Dimitri at Hardware Canucks totally sold these cases for me with the clear side, because his photography is absolutely outstanding. And I think a big part of that too was kind of what helped me get back into the idea of you know, caring about my PC case again. I would say it's very much him and Jay's 2 cents, who I've been subscribed to for a very long time, actually, but I just haven't watched any of your stuff. You know, I haven't had a reason to be like, let's upgrade my PC. And with the GTX 1080 coming out, I wanted to look at everybody's opinion. You know, Tech Syndicate, you know, LTT, all those guys. I like to hear all of their thoughts and sort of mesh them into one. But I, you know, really appreciated Dimitri's film work. And then I think the other part of it too was Doom. You know, Doom was seriously that game I was so obsessed with that I just wanted to be able to run it on like the highest settings. And so I'm kind of already back in the idea of like, okay, let's get this. I'm going to be overclocking my 280X this weekend, possibly overclocking my i7, my 4770K CPU, which I know a lot of people are like, you have a K series and you haven't overclocked it. What the hell's wrong with you? I just didn't need to, you know, it wasn't a necessity. And also my Alienware case, like, I just didn't believe in its cooling, you know, capabilities. Now I've got much better airflow in there. And I'm also going to be upgrading next week to an NCXT closed loop block for my CPU. So I can get liquid cooling on that thing and get rid of the fan, because it doesn't make sense to have a fan for me when I can get really affordable liquid cooling and you know, be all set. I also need to replace that missing stick of RAM that you guys may have noticed that burnt out about a month ago, unfortunately. Well beyond its warranty, so I'm sitting on 12 gigs instead of 16 gigs right now, which is not actually that big of a deal, but it is what it is. Anyways, I'm looking forward, guys, to not only throwing in that water cooling block for my CPU, but of course we're going to be seeing some of the third-party boards for the GTX 1080 hopefully very soon. Also, people finally releasing their reviews and their impressions for the 1070. So it's going to be interesting to see all these different price points, and then I'm really excited, hopefully in the coming months, to again see all these third-party boards finally making their way into the market with, you know, possibly upgraded core clocks and different fans. We've already got the EVGA, which is basically the reference card with a different fan on it. So I don't know, it's an exciting time to be a PC gamer, and I'm taking advantage of that for the first time in a very long time. Thank you guys for joining me. Just, you know, I feel like a lot of people do ask me about my rig, and honestly, I feel like it's a bit embarrassing to show off that old Alienware case, so now I can feel proud of my PC once again. And I have to say, I'm really impressed with this Phantek case. Otherwise, build quality is fantastic, apart from that dent. The only thing about acrylic that I'm already dreading is keeping it clean. Like, there was stuff on the inside of the case. I've taken the panel off about 6 times to get fingerprints off. I need to make, like, gloves that are basically anti-fingerprint and also clean the case screen, so I can take it off and just rub it with my hands and be good. That's it, guys. If you have any questions for me regarding the build, if you'd like to, you know, have me describe anything more in detail, you can go ahead and click the About page over on my YouTube channel. That'll give you the full list of all the parts and components and drives, as well as my keyboard, mouse, headphones, all of that stuff. If you're interested in that sort of thing, you want to know exactly what I have for some reason, it's all there. Definitely look forward to more updates regarding my PC in the future. I think we'll do some stuff from now on, you know, as I add parts into the PC. We'll make little videos. It'll just be a fun way to, I don't know, appreciate the hobby that is PC gaming. Last and the final time I will say it, thank you guys very much for watching. Anything else from me, throw it down in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.